everybody, thank you for joining me for today's yoga. My name is Holly. Today's practice we are going to open and stretch the body. This is a practice for all levels. If you like to use props, just have a block to hand. If you are working with any injuries today, just be mindful. If something doesn't feel good in the body, then just back out of it. We're going to start today in child's pose. So we're going to bring our big toes together, have the knees slightly apart or wider if you want to work into the hips, and we're just going to lay our chest down across the thighs, sinking ourselves towards the mat, bringing the arms down long, palms down on the mat. Maybe your forehead rests on the mat, or if it's more comfortable, you can always make fists for the hands and rest your forehead on the fists, letting those hips feel heavy. Don't worry if those hips are lifted off the heels. And we're just going to take a moment here to center ourselves, letting go of the day we've had so far. Starting to quiet the mind, letting go of any thoughts. And bringing our awareness to our breath. So taking our inhales and exhales through the nose. Trying to match the length of our inhales and exhales. As we inhale, feeling the belly press against the thighs, our ribs raising in the back. Working to the backs of the arms and the shoulders. We're going to bring our palms of the hands together, bending into the elbows and bringing our thumbs to the base of the neck. And we'll take 5 more centering breaths before we begin our practice. Your next exhale, release the arms back down, and then walking the hands in towards you, lifting the chest. We're going to come to stand on our knees, leaving the tops of the feet down on the mat, bringing the arms up overhead. We're going to bring the left hand forward, the right arm behind us, opening up into a twist, keeping the hips forward and letting the rotation come in the upper back. Inhale to come back through to center. Exhale, take the right hand forward, left arm behind you, maybe taking your gaze over the left hand. Inhale, both arms up. Exhaling, left hand forward, right arm behind you. Inhaling back through to center. Exhaling one more time, right arm forward, left arm behind you. And inhaling back through to center. And then coming back down to sit on our heels. You can stay sitting on your heels, or if you feel okay in the knees and the ankles, you can come into hero pose, so you bring your heels to the outside of the hips. You can also help sitting on a block if you feel like there's too much pressure in the hips and the ankles. So pick a pose that feels good for you. We're going to bring our arms out in front of us. We're going to bend into the elbows. We're coming into eagle arms, so we're going to bring the right elbow underneath the left elbow, maybe binding once so the backs of the hands come together, or binding twice, bringing the palms of the hands together. If you're quite large in the chest, this might be unavailable to you, so you can always just have one elbow stacked on top of the other and holding on to the shoulders instead. Lifting those elbows and dropping the shoulders, maybe tucking the chin in towards the chest. We're opening up into the upper back. Releasing the arms. We're going to bring our hands onto the mat, just lift the hips and just pat the feet a couple of times, just release the ankles and the knees. And then we'll come back down for a second set. So bringing our arms out in front of us, bending into the elbows, this time going the opposite side, so left elbow underneath the right elbow, binding once or twice, or holding onto the shoulders. Tucking the chin in towards the chest, lifting those elbows. then releasing the arms, bring our hands onto the mat, lift the hips, pat those feet again. And this time we're going to cross at the ankles and bring the sitting bones down behind us, bringing the soles, the feet together and letting the knees fall out wide, come in into Badaknasana. You can have your heels further away from your sitting bones, or if you're quite open, you can bring those heels in a little closer. You can always sit on a block to elevate the hips and let those knees fall out wide. So option here, you could just bring your fingertips behind you and just work on opening up into the hips. But if this feels quite comfortable, you might be able to bring your hands in front of you and just creep those hands forwards. Try and find length in the spine here as we fold forward and deepen the stretch into the inner thighs. With every inhale, we find length. With every exhale, we might fold a little deeper. And then releasing from here, we're going to walk our hands back in towards us as we lift the chest. And then we're just going to bring our hands to the outside of the knees and gently draw them in towards each other. And we'll make our way into our tabletop pose. So we want the wrists underneath the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips with a flat back. We'll warm up the spine with some cat-cow. So on an inhale, the tailbone lifts, belly drops, chest comes forward, gaze is forward. Exhale to round through the spine, take the chin to chest. Maybe pressing down through the palms of the hands. Inhaling, let that belly drop, tailbone lifts. Exhale to round and contract. 2 more times. Moving with the rhythm of your own breath. After your next exhale, coming back into a flat back, we're going to tuck the toes, making sure our feet are hip width distance apart, walking our hands slightly in front of the shoulders. On our next exhale, we're lifting the knees, sending that tailbone high into our first downward facing dog. So option to keep a bend in the knees here. You might want to pedal out the feet. Taking any movement that feels good. We're looking for length in the spine here. Pressing down through the fingertips and knuckles of the hands. Heels coming up onto the balls of the feet, bending into the knees, gaze towards the top of the mat. We're going to take little steps up towards the hands, coming into our Ragdoll Fold, so feet are about hip width distance apart, keeping a bend in the knees and catching hold of opposite elbows, letting the crown of the head hang heavy, maybe swaying gently from side to side. We're just releasing all the way down the back of the body. Releasing those fingertips down to the mat, pressing into the heels of the feet. Keep a bend in the knees. We're going to roll all the way up the spine, coming to stand. And coming into our Dadasana Pose, palms of the hands face forward, crown of the head is lifted, lengthen that tailbone down. On our next inhale, we're going to circle our arms up towards the ceiling. And then interlacing the fingers, pushing the palms away from us. Inhale to lift up out the waist. Exhale, take a side bend over to the right. Inhaling back through to center, exhale, side bend over to the left. Inhaling back through to center, and then bringing the palms into prayer position and down through to heart center. On our next inhale, circling our arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead. Exhale, bring those hands out wide, swan dive over the body into our forward fold. Inhale, find length in the spine, half lift, so palms can come onto shins or fingertips can stay on the mat. Exhaling into a forward fold. Plant those palms, step back into high plank. Lower those knees if you want to. On an exhale, we're going to bend at the elbows and lower all the way down to the mat. Untucking those toes when we get there. Inhale, lift the chest, coming into cobra. Exhale into lower. Tuck those toes, push the hips back towards the heels, making our way into downward facing dog. On our next inhale, making our way to the top of the mat so we can hop or step up to the hands, coming into our half lift, flat back. Exhale into forward fold. Inhale, circle those arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead. Exhale, bring those hands down through to heart center. So we're going to move into tree pose. We're going to root down through our right leg. Draw the kneecap up, engage the quad on the right leg. We're going to bring the left sole of the foot to the inside of the right leg. Don't press it against the knee. We want our left knee pointing out to the left with hips and chest facing forward. Rooting down through that standing leg. And focusing on something that isn't going to move to help you feel balanced. And you can always use a wall for support if you need to. Next exhale, we're going to send ourselves back into a warrior three. So we're going to send this left leg behind us, bringing it out at hip height, pushing through the heel, making a capital T shape with the body. Roll that left hip down. Keep your hands in prayer position at heart center. Reach that crown of the head forward. You don't have to have the standing leg straight. If it helps, you can keep a bend into that right knee. On our next exhale, we're slowly going to lower this left foot towards the back of the mat, coming into our high lunge, bending into the right knee, reaching the arms up overhead. Hands are shoulder width distance apart, squaring everything off to the front of the mat, so pull the right hip back, the left hip forward. Exhale, we're going to bring our hands down to frame this front foot. We're going to straighten into this right leg, coming into our wide pyramid pose. So straighten this leg as much as is comfortable. Your back heel might be lifted off the mat. Just folding down over the right leg. All the way down the back of the right leg, working into that hamstring. And then taking a bend into that right knee so that we can plant the palms of the hands down, take the right foot back, high plank. We'll move through a vinyasa. Exhale to chaturanga all the way down. Inhale, coming into cobra or our upward facing dog. Exhale into lower, making our way into downward facing dog. On our next inhale, making our way to the top of the mat so we can hop or step up to the hands, coming into our half lift, flat back. Exhaling into our forward fold. Inhale, circle those arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead. Exhale, bring those hands down through to heart center. So this time rooting down through the left leg. We're going to come into tree pose by bringing the right sole of the foot to the inside of the left leg. Don't press it against the knee. The right knee is pointing out to the right with the hips facing forward. Opening up into that right hip. If you want to challenge your balance, you can close your eyes. On our next exhale, we're going to come into warrior three. So we're going to bring this right leg out behind us at hip height, making that capital T shape with the body. Roll that right hip down so we're not rolling it out to the side, pushing through the heel of the right foot. root down through that standing leg. If you need to use a wall for balance, that's fine. And engage that core to protect your lower back. On our next exhale, we're going to slowly lower this right foot towards the back of the mat, coming into our high lunge, reaching those arms up overhead, keep them shoulder width distance apart. Square everything off to the front of the mat. On our next exhale, we're going to lower these hands down to frame this front foot, straightening into the left leg, coming into our wide pyramid fold. Back heel can be lifted, you can keep a bend into this left knee if you need to. Folding down over this front leg. Taking enough of a bend into this left knee so that we can plant the palms down, take the left foot back so we're in our high plank, move through a vinyasa, exhale to chaturanga or all the way down, inhale to cobra or upward facing dog, exhaling as we lower, making our way into downward facing dog. On our next inhale, we're making our way to the top of the mat so we can hop or step up to the hands, coming into our half lift, flat back. Exhaling to fold. Inhale, circle those arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead. Exhale, hands down through to heart center. So we're going to move into our eagle pose, a little bit of a balance. So we're going to start on the left leg. So we're going to take a little bend into the left leg, make sure you're rooting down. We're going to bring the right knee up and over that left leg, maybe pointing those toes down to the mat for balance, maybe double wrapping, bringing our arms out in front of us, bending into the elbows. Our right elbow is going to come underneath the left elbow, bind once or twice, or hold onto the shoulders like we did at the start. Maybe sinking those hips a little deeper. Use a wall for balance if you need to. And don't worry if you fall out of it. On our next inhale, straightening into the legs, release the arms, release the legs, give them a little shake. We'll go to the opposite side, rooting down through the right leg, slight bend in the knee, bring the left knee up and over. Bring the toes down onto the mat or double wrap. Bring arms out in front of you, bend into the elbows. The left elbow is coming underneath the right elbow, bind once or twice. Or hold on to the shoulders. Sink those hips. Bend a little deeper into those knees. Feeling those thighs working. On our next inhale, straightening into the legs, release the arms, release the legs, give them a little shake. On our next inhale, circle those arms up towards the ceiling. Exhale, hands come out wide, swan dive over the body. Plant those hands, step back, downward facing dog this time. And then releasing those knees onto the mat. Bring those feet off to one side so we can bring the sitting bones down. And shuffling ourselves forward so that we've got enough room behind us. We're going to hold on to the backs of the knees and just wiggle a little bit on our seats so that we can find our sitting bones. And then maybe you can bring your heels and feet off the mat. You may want to stay here and just focus on length in the spine and keeping that chest open, drawing those shoulders back slightly. You may want to flex into the feet and bring your shins up in line with the knees. You may want to let go and bring your arms out and coming into half boat. If anyone wants to do full boat, you are welcome. Engage that core. Strong hip flexors here to hold us in the pose, drawing those thighs in towards the chest. Exhale and release the legs. Bring those legs out long. On an inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Inhale, lift up out the waist. Exhale, hinge from the hips, coming into a forward fold. Bring those hands wherever is comfortable. Make sure you keep a bend in the elbows so you're not stretching too much to try and hold on to the feet. Keep a bend in those knees if you need to. On our next inhale, release, lift the chest. We're going to take a bend into our right knee and bring it on top of the left, keeping that left leg out straight. We're coming into half cow face pose. So we're going to bring the right heel to the outside of the left hip. And this might be enough for you, but if you want to get a bit of a stretch down the left leg, we're going to creep our fingertips forward, deepen in that stretch. If this is too much, just come into head to knee pose. So we bring the sole of the foot against the left leg and folding over the left leg. It's a real deep stretch down the back of the left leg. You may feel it into the back of the left knee as well. Releasing from here. So we're going to release the right leg out straight. We're going to take a bend into the left knee, bring it on top of the right knee, coming into half cow face pose. So bring the left heel to the outside of the right hip, or you can come to head to knee fold. So bringing that sole of the left foot against the right leg, inside of the right leg. Maybe you're staying here, maybe you're creeping your fingertips forward and deepening that stretch down the back of the right leg. From here, we'll bring the left leg out long, keep the leg straight. So we're bringing our hands behind us, palms of the hands on the mat, fingertips facing forwards. We're coming into reverse plank. You can do reverse table and bend the knees, soles of the feet on the mat if you prefer. On an inhale, we're going to lift the hips, point those toes down towards the mat. If you feel quite tight in the shoulders, you might find it difficult to lift the hips high. Engage those glutes, engage those hamstrings. Exhale and release, lower those hips. Take a bend into the knees, soles of the feet on the mat, shuffle those hips forward so you've got enough room behind you. Arms reach out long. On an exhale, slowly with control, we're going to roll all the way down the spine until we bring our shoulders and back of the head on the mat. And then maybe bring those heels a little bit closer in towards you with our arms down long beside you. You may be able to brush the back of the heels with the fingertips. On our next inhale, we're going to lift the hips, roll all the way up the spine, coming into our bridge pose. Chest comes in towards the chin. Pressing down through the soles of the feet. Making sure those knees aren't rolling out to the sides, draw them in towards each other. On our next exhale, slowly roll all the way down the spine until we bring our hips back down onto the mat. And taking a moment here before we do our second set. On our next inhale, lift the hips, roll all the way up the spine. Chest comes in towards the chin. Engage those glutes, lift those hips a little bit higher. exhaling to release. Lower vertebrae by vertebrae until we bring our hips back down onto the mat. And then we'll just take our knees from side to side, releasing the lower back. And then bring our arms out at shoulder height, or cactus the arms if you don't quite have the room. Press down through the soles of the feet, lift the hips and shift them over to the right slightly. Bring those knees in towards the chest, and on an exhale, send those knees down to the left as our gaze comes over to the right. Keeping that right shoulder down on the mat, feet broad across the chest. If your knees don't quite make it to the floor beside you, you can make a fist with your left hand, place it underneath your left knee, or even use a block. Engage the core, bring those knees back through to center, place the soles of the feet on the mat, lift the hips and shift them over to the left slightly, knees back in towards the chest. On an exhale, send those knees down to the right, gaze can come over to the left, keep that left shoulder down on the mat. Make any adjustments you need to with the knees to make this pose feel more comfortable. Engaging the core, bringing those knees back through to center, and then wrapping our arms around the shins. You might want to sway gently from side to side, just massaging the lower back into the mat. And then bringing our hands onto the backs of the thighs behind the knees. We're going to rock ourselves up to sit in, or you can roll to one side and push yourselves up to sit in. Coming into a cross-legged position, resting our hands on our knees or in our lap, wherever you prefer. And we'll just take a moment here, scanning through the body, noticing if you feel any different to how you felt when you first got on the mat. And then bringing our palms together at heart center. Give yourselves a little thank you for making time to get on the mat today. And we'll bow our forehead to our fingertips to close off our practice. Thank you, and thank you for joining me. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.